All right, folks, check this out. An incredibly embarrassing story for Donald Trump just broke, and it's kind of flying under the radar. So I want to make sure you know about it. Yesterday in the Oval Office, you might have seen clips from Donald Trump having this emergency press conference with all these different soccer players behind him. These players play for Juventus. It's an Italian soccer team. They're here in the United States to compete in a tournament that's taking place this summer, and many of their players are actually Americans. They play for the American men's national team. But here's the thing for Donald Trump that didn't go well. These players, especially the Americans, don't like Trump. They disagree with his politics. Many of them came out after the fact and said that they did not know that they'd be involved in a press conference and that they didn't enjoy being there with Donald Trump. So this PR event that he hosted and kind of dragged them into the White House has totally backfired on him. And I want to start this story by talking about these two photos right here. And these two photos just show you how unhappy these players are to be there. They're looking at Donald Trump with total disdain. And if you look at the bottom photo, right over Donald Trump, the two players standing behind him, those two are American players. It's Timothy Weah and Weston McKennie, American players who play for Juventus, but also the national team. And here's a little breakdown of the story and the context. So Wednesday afternoon in Washington, D.C., and in normal circumstances, Italian club Juventus would have been preparing for an evening fixture against Al Ain FC, the Abu Dhabi team, in the opening match of their FIFA Club World Cup campaign. Instead, an entourage of executives and players headed to the Oval Office and stood behind Donald Trump during his media briefing with the White House press pool. Over the course of a 16-minute appearance, the group, including U.S. men's national team duo Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah, stood by as Trump discussed a possible attack on Iran, whether the U.S. civil war could have been avoided. Seriously, he actually talked about it, and his administration's travel bans. He also quizzed them on whether a woman could get into their team. So he started to bait them into trying to talk about Donald Trump's views on the transgender people in sports topic, and it actually was an incredibly awkward moment. So I have a video to show you of that, but first and foremost, let me give you some context on that. At one point, who in February signed an executive order banning transgender participants from women's sports, Donald Trump turned around to ask the players and staff about their views on the subject. He said, quote, "Could a woman make your team, fellas?" Trump asked the players, who smiled nervously but did not offer a response. When Trump asked the question again, Juventus's general manager attempted to deflect the query, saying, quote, "We have a very good women's team." And then Donald Trump followed up, pressing again, saying, "But they should be playing with women," Trump said. "He's being very diplomatic," Trump added. So let's take a look at that clip as well, and you can see just how awkward it was. It was brutal.
For that, he was never for open borders, and he was never for, if you think, he was never for transgender for everybody, or men playing in women's sports. You know, he was never for that. Have you ever had women? Could a woman make your team, fellas? Tell me. You think? You're being nice. What do you think? Think a woman could make the team? General managers, what do you think?
Difficult.
Don't say it.
We have a very good women's team, though.
You do have, right?
Yeah.
But they should be playing with women, right? You know, it's one of those things. One of those things. See, they're very diplomatic.
Oh, that was so brutal. Oh, it's just hard to watch. It really is hard to watch. And I really appreciated how the American players, again, that you're seeing over Donald Trump's right shoulder, didn't play into his games. They just stood there silently. Actually, matter of fact, Timothy Weah in the back, when Donald Trump asked, "Could a woman make your team?" he said, yeah. He just stuffed Donald Trump in a locker and pushed back on him, which I very much appreciate as an American, and they are American players standing up to Donald Trump in the Oval Office. But that moment was brutal. He really tried to get them to agree with him, to agree with his politics. They weren't doing it, and nobody on the Juventus team was doing this. But here's also something that's pretty important to know. Some members of Juventus's entourage, including players, were not aware. They were not aware that they would be unveiled at a press conference before attending the event. Senior personnel at U.S. Soccer were also not aware that USMNT players were headed to the White House. That's U.S. men's national team players were headed to the White House. So nobody knew that this was taking place. The players didn't know that they'd be dragged out by Donald Trump. They just thought they were going to the White House. They didn't know that they were going to have this whole event in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. Nobody on the men's national team knew. Nobody knew. Donald Trump just tried to make this a PR event and it totally backfired. It's also important to note that Tudor, the manager of Juventus, was asked in a general question about the trip to the White House in a post-match press conference saying, "You don't go to the White House every day, so it was a pleasure to go." The Athletic, which is the New York Times wing that talks about sports in particular, then asked him to expand a little on what the experience was like and how it felt to be a football coach standing behind the desk at the Oval Office as the president discussed major global issues like Iran and Israel, which is crazy to think about. The FIFA moderator of the press conference intervened. He said that questions should be focused on the game. The Athletic argued that given the owner, players, and executives had been present on game day, it was a fair question. The FIFA official reiterated questions must be focused on the game. And if I had to make an opinion on the matter, it seems like the FIFA officials were the one that really forced this meeting. It seems like nobody else as part of the Juventus team were stoked to be there. They weren't excited, but rather it was the FIFA officials who have had plenty of meetings with Donald Trump in recent months and since he got into office to try to get more competitions in the United States, and they appear to be very big Trump fans. So it kind of seems like they forced these players to go to the White House, and they didn't really have a choice. And actually, Timothy Weah, who we saw in that clip disagreeing with Donald Trump, kind of stuffing him in a locker, came out publicly after their game that night and said that they told us we have to go. I have no choice. But when Trump started talking about the politics with Iran and everything, I just want to play football, man. So he came out publicly, and let's take a look at that clip as well.
Was it like today at the White House? How much did you know before you went that you were going to be in a press conference? What was that like?
It was all a surprise to me, honestly. They just told us that, we have to go, and, I had no choice but to go, so shut up.
Wow, he just is openly saying, I had no choice but to go. I had to show up. Interesting.
I mean, I guess it was a cool experience, obviously. I mean, being in the White House as a first time, it's always wonderful, but, I'm not one for the politics, so it wasn't that exciting.
Damn, I mean, that is as strong of a shot at Trump I think we're going to get here, because the players have to be diplomatic. Obviously, they can't really voice their opinions all that much. They, a lot of behind the scenes things going on with the club and the men's national team, I assume. But it wasn't that exciting, according to him. Being with Donald Trump, it wasn't all that exciting because he's not a fan of the politics. That's crazy.
Finding yourself on camera looked like it was a surreal experience for you guys to be in that moment?
Yeah, it was weird. I was caught by surprise. It was a bit weird. I was caught by surprise, honestly, when he started talking about all the politics with Iran and everything. It was kind of like, I just want to play football, man.
What did you make of?
Damn, that is scathing for Donald Trump. That really is scathing. So you're kind of seeing in real time how his meeting with the Juventus football club, soccer club, whatever you want to call it, and the American players, which Donald Trump thought was going to be a terrific PR event. It was going to go so well, and it was going to boost his numbers, and he was going to be seen with these players. He's going to look so cool. Has just completely backfired on him in a really brutal way. These players are coming out saying, I didn't know I was going to be there, had to go, didn't really want to be there, don't like the politics. I just want to play my sport, So anyway, I will leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Also drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about this story. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.